didn't stop, Greg's, because you couldn't freaking hear me. But no, stuff has gotten a little crazy. I said after the game, I kissed the floor. I thought as I started to walk off, and I've had plenty of times in my life I wished I'd kissed the floor at Allen Fieldhouse 10, 20, 30 times. This year, we were undefeated in the conference at home. Our last two games, the crowd came in and they were sensational. And it was just, I didn't know anything about Antoine Jamison kissing the floor. I'd never heard that story. I knew that we won a lot of games at Kansas and here, that I thought the crowd was extremely important to us. I knew it was the last game this season in the Smith Center, and that's all it was. That's all it was. And then all this stuff's come out about our about our contributions. If you really think about it, guys, come on. One of the things that's said in there is that the total is about 5.8 million in the 18 years. So I'm not giving 3 million here. Is not the first time I've ever done this, or Wanda and I've ever done this. It's something that we've consistently done, and we did it at Kansas as well. And I just want to say it. Somebody said I was trying to buy another year from Bubba. I got a daggum contract through 2028. I mean, you think I need to buy a daggum other year? I've already got a contract. Jesus Christ. But it's something I've done my entire life. It's just that I hadn't really cared if people knew about it. And I'm damn sure wishing that people didn't know about it now, so they didn't have to listen to all this junk. But it's something that we love doing. I love supporting the university. I love supporting our other sports programs. I've done it since the day I was born. And that's not right. Since the day I walked on campus. Dean Smith called me in his office many, many years ago and said, and I don't do his twang in front of most people. I just do it in front of close friends. But he said, I heard you gave money to the fund to build the Smith Center. And I said, yes. And I said, Coach, they give me 7 years to pay it. And he said, but still, you don't have to do that. He said, I said, well, Coach, I wanted my children to have tickets the rest of their lives. And he said, well, they will. And I said, you're not going to live forever. And I said, Coach, and I sort of got a little uppity, I think, to be honest with you. I said, Coach, you're giving money. He said, I didn't give a year's salary. He just jumped all over me. And so you can look it up, guys. My name's on the board out there in the concourse, Roy and Wanda Williams. I was making less than $6,000 a year. I gave the university $5,000. So with all this junk I'm coaching my butt off, trying to coach my butt off, and that's what I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about I'm concerned about when I die, because I keep telling our guards, particularly, I want them to be great players before I'm gone. So, but let's put all this other stuff to rest. There's no master plan. There's no minor plan. I'm doing what I've done my whole life. And so now, Greg, if you'll very eloquently ask that question, I'll see if I can answer it.
I don't know how eloquent it was, but was going to ask about the one-time transfer rule. It sounds like the NCAA is going to move ahead with that for next year. Just wanted your thoughts on that and how you think that will impact the game.
I think it'll be the most significant piece of legislation that's ever happened in college basketball. I'm old school. I believe if you have a little adversity, you ought to fight through it. And it makes you stronger at the end. I believe when you make a commitment, that commitment should be solid, and it should be to do everything you can to make it work out. We have all, even you guys on this screen here, have seen guys come in as freshmen that were okay or not good. And sophomores, they were better. Juniors, they were better. Seniors, they were drafted. Or juniors, they were drafted. But so I think it just opens up. There's no bottom line. There's no negative. If you don't like what the coach gave you for pregame meal, you have the right to leave. And so I'm old school. And now people say, well, the coaches leave, and that's the reason I've even told you guys at one time in my life I wanted to coach at one school, and that was it. And things didn't go like that, and I've turned down a lot of jobs because I want to be at North Carolina. And I didn't leave and try to find another place to coach last year after we had such a tough year. So general principle wise, I don't like it. I understand freedom, and I understand it's a new world, and I understand that they're not my generation. But I do think there's something about making a commitment and sticking with it and fighting through adversity. And saying that it's our world, we're going to have to live with it. It's not going to change. The horse is out of the barn or the toothpaste out of the tube or whatever you want to say, it's a done deal. And what's going to happen next, nobody knows. But I think these are totals I shouldn't say because I don't know if it's fact. But somebody said that there were more people in the transfer portal for football than there were spots in the Power Five conferences. And you guys may know if that's right or not. I've also heard that all those kids that went in, 27% of them have found places to go. I mean, so it's just an old school, deep down belief. I don't think it's the right thing to do. You have to sit out a year. Guys have stayed around and said, "Hey, I'm really glad that I stayed around." And so that's. I'm not sitting on the fence because I don't like it, but it's what we have, and we've got to work with it. Was the transfer something? Was there something else, Craig, after the transfer?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Andrew Jones.
Coach, if you don't mind if I go back to the kissing the floor thing just for a minute, I'm just kind of curious, how soon after that did you start hearing from people concerned? Like maybe because the fans and stuff that we heard some hysteria pretty quickly. How did you experience it from your side?
I just saw it yesterday, guys. We made the commitment in November and gave them the money in December, and I just didn't want anything to do with everything about all the knowledge. I don't think everybody needs to know all my business, but David Ruth in our development office, who's a great guy, basketball high school player, played for Mac Morris, one of my great friends and one of the great high school coaches in the state, thought that it would be something that might encourage other people to give. And I've already had 3 phone calls yesterday and today of people that decided they were going to do that. So David is what he thought might happen has happened. I've heard from a lot of people that how happy they were and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I've started hearing the other stuff yesterday. But guys, I don't know. If my wife didn't have a phone, I wouldn't know anything about it. But it's just, I think it's gotten carried away a little bit, I guess, Andrew.
CL Brown.
It's kind of hard to follow all of this stuff, Roy, but I was curious what you thought about taking such a young team into the postseason for the first time. They obviously don't know anything about what they're about to face, both in the ACC and in the NCAA. So how do you emphasize, the importance of how every possession seems to matter in the postseason?
Well, see, it's a good question. If our 7 freshmen have never experienced anything like the ACC tournament, and neither is anyone else going in there with that arena, 3,000 or 4,000 people as compared to what it normally is, and the people in the parking lot and the tailgating going on. I mean, it's one of the greatest sports events ever, but these kids are not going to see that. But we're just trying to treat it like we're going to play a game, and there's other people playing before us and afterwards, just like we did in Asheville at the Maui Invitational in Asheville. But it's the whole world is different in what we're seeing. But guys, I don't know how we're going to play from. Just think about from Florida State to Marquette. Was that who came after? Yeah, Louisville and then Marquette. I mean, we played both those games at home. So I have no idea what the good's going to look like in Greensboro Coliseum.
Brendan Marks.
Hey, Roy, I wanted to ask you about Kerwin specifically. And I know over the summer, everyone talked about him as this great shooter, but at what point did that sort of become clear to you that he needed to be seeing more time in order for you guys to sort of reach your ceiling and help everyone else on the floor as well? At what point did you realize that?
The summer before his junior year in high school, because I told him, he walked over to say hello, and I said, "I can't talk to you, son, but keep shooting that ball." And then I went over to his coach and I said, "That guy's got a chance." And so then we saw him in the fall of his senior year and the early winter of his senior year, and had him in for a visit. And I told him, I said, "We don't have anybody like you. If you can do what I think you can do, there's a great chance you'll be out on the floor." And I think coming in, it was a little eye-opening for him. And a little bit more challenging than he thought it was going to be, but he's just a worker. I mean, he really is. After every practice, he gets more shots up. He's out there earlier than everybody else, getting more shots up. It's almost a Chris Mullen from St. John's kind of attitude, or a Tyler Hansbrough at North Carolina, or a Justin Jackson, Luke May, Kenny Williams kind of thing. He's out there, and when he goes out on the court, he goes to a goal by himself. You know, he's a very quiet young man anyway, but it's not like Armando and Dayron having beach party 3 on the goal on one end. He goes down there and gets up a lot of shots. And so I think it just took him a little while to understand how important it was on the defensive end of the floor. And in the first week, he didn't make as many as he made the second week. He made more of the third week and made more of the fourth week. So just a credit to him for his work ethic.
I think you're muted, Steve.
Yeah, well, now my internet just dropped out, but I'm back on. Lauren Walsh.
Hi, Coach. So usually we're talking about wins and losses when referencing a challenging season, but this year has obviously taken that to a new level. So how would you describe the journey it has been for you and your program to get to this point and have a path not only to the ACC tournament, but potentially the NCAA tournament with everything that's happened?
It's been a very frustrating year. It hasn't been as much fun as we've had in the past. It hasn't been as easy. It hasn't been true college life for all of our players, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. So it's been very, very unusual. And in my opinion, not nearly as fun and happy as it's been in the past. They come to the gym and sometimes stay here all day and then go to their room at night. And so that part has just been difficult. And the unbalanced schedule, the ACC has always had an unbalanced schedule that sometimes is not as fair for one team as it is for others. But I've seen that unbalanced look so much more this year than I ever have. And, you know, for us, I mean, shoot, we like to play at home. Heck, if we'd have played 3 more home games, I may have kissed the floor 3 more times, who knows? But in some ways, taken away from the great college experience that your kids can usually have.
Kip Coons.
Yeah, hi, Roy. Personally, I would like to hear you do your Coach Smith twang, but moving
You'd be
on.
the only one that would recognize it, Kip. And Roy, what do you mean?
That's not bad. Seriously though, Roy, the last 5 games we've seen, you know, the kind of a Jekyll and Hyde out of your team. You blow out Louisville, you lose to Marquette, you beat Florida State, you lose to Syracuse, you beat Duke. Do you have a feeling on which way your team is trending? Are you comfortable with where they are right now? And who should we expect to see tomorrow?
You know, you're getting to be modern too. You're talking about trending. And when I first started, you know what the Dickens that was. But no, I think one thing is to understand is that we played Syracuse at Syracuse, and we did not play as well as I wanted to play here. And that was on the last second shot. They beat everybody else. So that one was not something that made you scratch your head, or it shouldn't have. The Marquette loss here at home should and did for me. But no, we've had, you know, we had a great win somewhere and then went to Clemson and we were just awful. I forget who we had. So it's been our mojo all year. I asked them yesterday at practice, did you want to go up and play great one night and then get your tail kicked the other night, or do we want to get more consistent? But yeah, you can't keep blaming it on this, but I do think it's a factor that those 7 guys are freshmen. And every game they've been guarded by somebody or had to guard somebody that they have never heard of. And that guy was kicking their tail. And so that is a big, big difference for freshmen. I remember several years ago, I asked, I think it was Larry Drew and Dexter Strickland. I said, have you ever heard of Andrew Goudlock? And they, no. I said, well, he said in the paper, he's going to hang 30 on you tomorrow night. And he got 33, but they had never heard of it. And so young guys just don't have that experience to go in and handle those kind of things. And yes, I tell them we're no longer freshmen. We've had 84 practices and 25 games, but the bottom line is they're still freshmen, and they're way behind where a lot of freshmen would be because the lack of preseason, the lack of conditioning, the lack of exhibition, lack of pickup games and those kind of things. So, but Kip, other than that, I don't have any exclamation, and I've tried to figure out everything, but you can change a lot of things, but you can't change what the mindset of a 18, 19, 20-year-old is.
Got time for a couple more. Josh Graham, then Ross.
Good afternoon, Coach. You mentioned Antoine Jameson earlier. I was going through Steve's notes, and the last time North Carolina won an ACC title in Greensboro, he was the MVP. And the last time you were a part of the Carolina team that won in Greensboro, some guy named James Worthy won the MVP. Given that connection to history that the Coliseum represents, how much does it matter to you that the ACC continues to come back to Greensboro?
Well, I have two different thoughts. One, if you'd told me that, I would have voted to go somewhere else. I didn't realize all that, but I think Greensboro is the best place to play the tournament. I've always felt that way. Everybody in town knows the game's going on. Everybody's excited. We don't need to have that discussion anymore about the media center of the world because everybody's got a phone. And the funniest thing is when we were in Brooklyn, and I'm not lying, we're at Brooklyn and I come back in from doing our morning exercise, and the guy at the gate at the front door said, "Coach, how you doing?" I said, "What are you in town for?" I mean, we're staying at his hotel. He didn't even know the daggum tournament was going on. So, but I think Greensboro is the best place. The committee up there does a great job. We won it in Tampa. We won it in Washington, D.C. We won it in
Charlotte.
And so I'd pick one of those guys places if you'd told me this is what the record was. But also, I do truly believe it's just a great place.
Last one, Ross.
Hey, Coach, kind of building off what Kip asked. I mean, what do you think your chances are heading into this tournament? How do you think your team is playing at this point, given the up and downs? And do you like the way they're playing and the possibility of making a run here?
Well, Ross, that one's pretty easy for you to answer. I like us on one day, and the next day I hate us. I mean, it's you guys deal with us. We're all old guys. If you had to deal with the kids, and if you have kids, you can't predict what the crap they're going to do the next moment, much less the next game. In my team, I cannot. I mean, I've been trying, guys, and I've done this for 48 years. But so to answer, you did cut out right early in your question. I had no idea the first thing, but if you're thinking or asking, what do I expect? The answer is I have no idea. If you're asking what I'm looking for, I'm looking for us to get more consistent. I've said all year long that I think we can be a really good basketball team, but we got to play on game day. The two of the best practices we had all year were the 2 days before we played at Clemson. I'm serious, two of the best practices all year, and we went down there and Clemson just killed us. So what I'm looking for, hopefully, is that we'll get more consistent and be able to do it 3 or 4 days in a row. But who knows? We'll see when we get there and see what happens during the game.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody. Sorry I couldn't get to everybody, but we went a little long. Thank you.
All right.